Hello, everyone. It's Larry Johnson, your host of Eight Principles Voices. And I am really thrilled to have a lady by the name of Brittany Dunn here with me. And she's going to keep you informed and maybe a little bit entertained. I'm not that much, but she's the Chief Operating Officer of Safe House Project. Did I get that right, Brittany?
You did, sir.
And this is not your typical. I decided I wanted to change the world story, and I'd like her to tell us a little bit more about it because she doesn't come out of the nonprofit environment. Neither does her co-founder, who is the chief executive officer. But they sort of responded to God's calling and said, "Okay, we're just going to go into this and see what happens." And they've been in it now 8 years, I think, and she's going to. I hope she'll tell us a little bit about the struggle in the early days. That's what I really want to hear. But without further ado, Brittany, it's a pleasure to have you with me.
Well, thank you, Larry. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're going to have fun.
I
All right.
can't wait.
So I covered a little bit of that now, what is it that you're trying to address? I should say, what is it that caught your heart that moved you in this direction? What was it about, what you're doing?
Yeah, so our organization, Safe House Project, really responds to the most critical needs of victims of human trafficking as they exit out of that exploitation and help get them into safe house programs. But long before, obviously, I understood that issue, God really started to work on my heart around just even the prevalence of this. When I started to learn about it, it was the early 2000s, had just moved to Atlanta and was hearing that there were 300 girls being trafficked on the streets of Atlanta every night. And I
Now,
couldn't understand
when you say
that.
traffic, you mean street prostitutes is what we're talking about here.
Child victims of yes, of sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
So these children were being sold for commercial sex on the streets of Atlanta every single night. And that broke my heart. But at that point, I was early on starting out my career. I was in technology, doing international business development, mergers and acquisitions. Really didn't necessarily see that as my career path. So over the next 10 years, God just took me on a learning journey. I ended up marrying a U.S. Navy naval aviator. And so with that life, we got to move all over the US. And so I started
Now,
to invest.
now, see, some people see that as a downer, but you saw it as an upper,
Oh,
moving all the time.
100%. I mean, yeah, a Top Gun pilot, what can you get wrong there? So, no, we got to move and we got to see different communities. And that meant that I got to learn about what human trafficking and specifically child sex trafficking was looking like in all of these different communities. And so the last duty station we had before we moved to Hampton Roads, Virginia, which is where Safe House Project launched out of, was outside of Reno, Nevada, where the brothels are still active. And so I had a madam of a brothel who lived up the street from me, and she was legally allowed to recruit the kids right out of our high school into the brothels because they were a tax-paying business.
Now, where is
And
this?
outside of Reno, Nevada, in
Oh,
a
that's right. Nevada's where prostitution is legal. I was like, so where is this? Okay.
I
All
know,
right.
but it's so shocking because you hear about this, and had seen it in other communities, San
And these
Diego.
were underage kids.
Yes, they were being recruited right at 17, right when they would turn 18, which would then
Uh,
become the legal age. But they were so vulnerable and they were being recruited. And it was just a really eye-opening experience to see how this was playing out if it wasn't a illegal industry in other communities. And so really started to really open my eyes to how this was happening at a very brass tacks level. So fast forward, moved to Norfolk, Virginia, where I met my co-founder through Bible study, and both of us had been on our own journeys to understanding what human trafficking looked like. We were both reading the book Circle Maker by Pastor Mark Batterson out of National Community Church, which is all about just standing in the circle until God tells you kind of what's next and trying to figure out what he wanted us to do on this issue. Um, it was not the most ideal time to launch a nonprofit. I mean, I was on maternity leave with my second. I had a 2-year-old. Christy had two twin 7-year-old boys and a 5-year-old daughter. So between us, there were 5 kids. And her husband deployed. My husband gets 3 days' notice. He deploys. My daughter is 5 weeks old on the kitchen table. And
so
that's when
you
God
so you
showed
hired
up.
a nanny between the two of you? Is that what you did?
No, we became each other's nanny. We did not
Okay.
did it together. So, baby on the table, kids playing around us, and God said go. And He cast such a large vision in those first 3 months that we knew that the vision that He gave us, He would have to provision.
So who else did you seek out for help? I mean, there's some legal issues, there's some other stuff. I mean, who other people came around you to kind of get this thing going?
It's the most beautiful piece of that whole story. We had one of our visionaries early on was a Christian hip hop artist who had worked a lot with marginalized populations, kids in fatherless homes, kind of seeing a lot of the vulnerabilities. We had the head of a large trade school and education system. And at that point, we were focused a lot on identification training and helping people
Mm-hmm.
understand the problem. In addition, we had some really great early board members who had been, the past president of the International Franchise Association, other ones from the intelligence community.
So
And so
how did you acquire these people? I mean, usually when someone forms a nonprofit, their first board is what's called family, fools, and friends. I mean, the people they can acquire. So were these prior association, or you were introduced to these people? How did it happen?
a lot of them were prior association, but there were a few that became through as introductions. And just as we started talking about the issue of human trafficking, I think it was new on a lot of people's radar, and we had people leaning in saying, okay, if
Mm-hmm.
this is really happening in our community, I want to be part of finding those solutions that are actually working. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we saw people drawn to just the complexity. It's not a single issue. It is a very complex criminal enterprise that thrives at the intersection of legal and illegal industry. And at the heart of it are kids, on average 12 years old, that are being sold. And so when you think about those numbers, it just can't help but compel people to want to be part of the redemption story.
I think it's something that you said that I think should be emphasized. It is a complex criminal enterprise. This is not just people snatching people off the street. Okay,
Right.
it's a lot more complicated. It's a lot more lucrative. There are very strong forces behind this. And maybe you don't want to tell me, but have you ever been threatened? Or you felt threatened in any of your work?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you
We
said that. You said that. Like I said, I'm going to walk out the street. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, we have, and we've had to take a lot of security measures to protect ourselves as, leaders of this organization, and our team. But at the end of the day, we believe that God called us to this, and if you are operating under His anointing, then you are operating in His will, and He's going to protect you. So, although yes, my family has been swatted, for about 12 weeks this summer by trafficking rings. We've had death threats. I've had my kids' images sent to me. Yes, we go up against some of the worst parts of humanity, but in that we see the greatest parts of humanity because
Mm-hmm.
we see miracle on miracle happen for the least of these. And when you get to step into somebody's restorative journey and see God move in ways that most of us don't understand, it doesn't help. Like you are compelled because you're seeing the light literally push back the darkness.
Yeah. See, this gives me, I hear this stuff all the time. I mean, I listen to the news. I read the Wall Street Journal, blah blah blah. And I suspected these things, but when you tell me, it's very compelling. It comes across three-dimensional, not two-dimensional.
Sure.
So, um, so then you've had to live with the realities of increased security, of forging ahead, of doing these things. Um, I take it this has not dissuaded you in any way.
No, it just fires me up even more because time that Satan's going to put that many people on you to try to dissuade you from going after your God-called vision and mission, I think that tells you going in the right direction. And I have no problem pissing off Satan if I know that I'm operating within God's will.
Well, one of the tests of knowing you're having an impact is having real enemies, regardless of what you're doing. And I think that's certainly been validation for you as well. Now, I know that you don't have a house of your own, meaning a place of your own
Sure.
that you have for these children. Now, you just do boys or girls, or just girls, or how do you do? Is it all women or
All victims of human trafficking.
all victims? Okay, so since you don't have a facility, and yet I look at your website, and you're like pretty much all over the country. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so our team is really at that critical place when somebody has 10 seconds of insane courage to exit a trafficking situation, we're getting those calls. And at that moment, our team is coordinating the extraction from that trafficking experience. We're coordinating the crisis management of what's going to happen and that safety planning for the next, 72 hours to a week to keep somebody safe before we identify the right safe house program somewhere in the country where they can really go and heal for up to 2 years. Those safe house programs are our partners. They do incredible work around education and therapy and medical treatment. But where we sit is at that pivotal moment when somebody is exiting that trafficking experience and needing that lifeline of
Now,
support.
let's
And that,
break that. Let's break that work down for a minute.
yeah, of course.
How does someone exit this? You make it sound like I'm getting off an airplane. Let's be a little more detailed. How do
Sure.
you if I'm 12 years old? I know that's a stretch, but if I'm 12 years old and I'm trapped in this, how would I ever exit it? I mean, no one's coming to rescue me. I don't think. How does it work?
It really actually can look very different depending on the situation. So recently we had a survivor who was able to get herself to a emergency department. And so she got in there, she disclosed to the nurse what was happening to her.
You mean an ER in a hospital? Okay.
Exactly. Got to there, was able to speak with a nurse and was translating what was happening to her. Her trafficker was a long haul truck driver. He was literally circling the hospital waiting for her to exit to snatch her up again. They called our team. We worked alongside the hospital staff to identify a tunnel that went underneath the main hospital to an administrative building somewhere else on site. We were able to transport the victim through that tunnel and have an extraction team meet her on the other side. From there, we had chaperones and people along the way that got her to the airport. We were able to maintain law enforcement support, got her on that first plane, and then had, when she touched down in the city where we had an emergency program waiting for her, there were victim advocates waiting to receive
Well,
and take her into care.
let me ask you a question. In a situation like that,
Mhm.
why wouldn't the hospital just call the police?
That one was she was over the age of 18, and not every survivor wants
Ah,
wants law enforcement involved. Kids can look a lot of different ways on how they're identified. When we talk about kids, over 50% are first trafficked by a family member. And so it's the people that they
let's say that. Let me put that by me again slowly, Brittany. How
fif-
much? How many?
50% of kids are first trafficked by a family member.
Okay. Let's let that sink in for a minute.
Mhm.
All right. Well, aside from it being appalling, um, that makes my skin crawl, Brittany.
Yep, mine too. It's what got me into this. My first survivor that we served had been trafficked from the age of 6 by her uncle and sold for $300 per buyer over 8 times every single night.
8 times in a 24-hour period.
Yes,
Oh, this is disgusting.
correct. And when you see that and you see somebody's resilience to escape that and tell somebody what's going on and have that courage, you have no choice but to find solutions for people.
See, this is where I think all the sanitized objective language doesn't really begin to describe what the situation really is. This is why I'm pushing you to get more details here. This is what people need to hear and need to understand. um, I'm so, and I know you're not really involved in this piece of the puzzle, but I'm wondering what sort of long-term psychological damage these children have after they're rescued.
No,
um,
we work very closely alongside. So even as they go into the Safe House programs, we're working with the program and the survivor through their journey because it's long term. I mean, I have survivors that we have walked alongside for the past 7 years, and it's because of the long-term psychological damage. On average, someone will have 10 and a half psychological disorders. A lot of that is, complex PTSD, dissociative disorders. Some have dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality historically. We
So
see borderline.
schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia is different than dissociative identity disorder,
Okay.
but they can
All
have
right.
both borderline personality, bipolar. So we are dealing with some of the most complex mental health referrals in the country every single day, which is what makes it so imperative that our team be able to do that deep assessment to identify that individual's unique needs and help place them in a program that meets that because you're dealing with mental health, but you can also, I mean, we've had girls as young as 13 years old exiting pregnant. So they're not just coming out having to think about their own mental health, they're also having to consider that they're about ready to bring a baby into this world, and often one that was conceived at the hands of either their trafficker or a buyer of them. And so we are dealing with people at the most raw, vulnerable, horrific pieces of how our society operates. And it's our privilege to walk alongside them. But that's why we always tell people that first week is so critical because we're setting the tone for somebody to trust us and trust the resources that we're bringing alongside them to truly transform their life.
I'm trying to let this sink in here. I'm still with you. Um, this is so are you, I know you are the chief operating officer now, so do you still get in you still have contact with patients with your charges? You still
We
have
do.
contact? Okay. All
We
right. And
think
is
it's
that
important to stay proximate to the issue. It doesn't mean I get to do it every day, but we want to make sure that we never feel disconnected from the people that we serve.
okay? All right. So how many states are you in off the top of your head?
All 50.
All 50.
Mhm.
Okay. And you've been around for 8 years.
Yes.
Okay. But you're just, I get the impression though, you're just scratching the surface of this thing. It's such a
Yeah.
big behemoth sitting out there.
It's the
Uh,
second largest criminal enterprise, and we are only at a 1% identification rate.
Now, I heard it's a fact or a factoid someplace, and you can either confirm or correct me on this, that the U.S. is actually the biggest market for trafficking in the world. Is that correct?
We're in the top three with Mexico and the Philippines, according to the Department of State. And a huge part of that is because we have the largest demand for commercial sex in the world.
Hmm. Okay, well, that's so. It must have been where I heard that,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
so um, this is scary, but it's wonderful and it's redeeming, and it's all those things wrapped into one, Brittany. So how you see yourself doing this for a while? Then I take it you're not ready to move on to anything else.
Nope. We have an audacious belief that God is going to start moving this country to really respond to this issue at scale and watching people become part of the fabric of the solution, not be part of the problem. And so I am here to see this thing taken all the way.
So then, uh, from what I know of your model that you use, it's imminently scalable. Is that correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
we have staff all around the country, and we have incredible survivors of human trafficking that are now on staff, being able to support individuals as they exit. We have incredible licensed clinical social workers. There's just this entire group of people who are truly called with unique gifts to serve individuals in so many different capacities. And so we have one of the best teams in the field.
Mhm. You, how many of your field sites have you personally visited?
I have gone to probably 15 now.
Hmm.
We also did a few years ago, Christy and I actually did a drive from the East Coast to Colorado and visited a lot of partners along that. So there were a lot more in there in that
See,
scene
now
there.
you know what
But
I thought of when you said that. Okay, you know the movie Thelma and Louise, right?
oh, we are like Thelma and Louise.
That's the first thing
Just
I
it,
thought of.
oh, 100%. Except that we put all five kids in the trunk, not in the trunk, but in the back
Oh,
seat.
I heard that. I heard that. You, everyone,
Truck,
you heard what she said.
truck. So we brought all five kids along for this adventure and showed them what it looks like to truly serve people in different communities and really showcase it. But collectively, our team has set foot into over 120 organizations over the past 18 months.
Okay. Well, I hope when you took that coast to coast trip that you gave your kids some entertainment, some of the sights on the
Oh,
way.
we saw the largest ball of twine, which fulfilled my childhood dream. I wanted to see the largest ball of twine since I was 6 years old. It took a 2-hour detour to Cocker City, Kansas, and I called the docent who's in charge of it, and she let me add twine to the ball.
Ooh, well, you are a special person, Brittany.
Just so you know, if you don't take away anything today, just know that you can go to Cocker City, Kansas, and add twine to the largest ball.
Oh, I will keep that on my list. Now, when I moved out from Western New York, I'm in Idaho now. I don't know if you knew that or not, but I am. And we were going through the upper Midwest, and I have three daughters, and they were into Laurel Ingalls Wilder, as you might imagine. So we had to take that detour. It was about 90 minutes up to her home and then back again. Yeah, so I've done similar things like that.
That's great.
Okay. Um,
Memory.
I what what is it? What message would you like our listeners to get from you today? What would you like them to remember about this interview?
I think the most important thing is that this is a complex issue, but it takes every single one of us understanding what human trafficking looks like in our community, being able to report it. We just launched a brand new AI tool and mobile app called Simply Report that you can download out of the Google or Apple Play Store. Go on and report suspected trafficking. That will route to our law enforcement partners within 5 seconds or route somebody to our survivor support team if they need services. But that real-time intelligence is what is going to allow us to increase identification above 1%. And then we get more survivors that we get to serve and watch them exit exploitation. And so, my call to action today is that you don't have to understand all the complexities of human trafficking. We just need you to care and lean into a hard issue.
So, if I were going to do this, and this is the
Mhm.
first thing that comes to me, um, do if I report something, do I put a target on my back using this app?
No, that's the great part is it's an anonymous real time and you can decide as the reporter if you provide your information or you can do it completely anonymously and it allows that information to be relayed to law enforcement. And then if we start to see where maybe something doesn't have a ton of actionable insights in the very first report, but let's say you report something, then a few days later I report something and somebody else does we're able to draw those cases or those tips together to help start painting a picture for law enforcement where something might be going on. And so it's more about the collective movement than it is about the one.
Oh, okay. So these things are amalgamated using an algorithm so that
Correct.
they can be identified and prioritized. Well, that's
Wonderful.
pretty clever, Brittany. So whose bright idea was that?
We had an incredible team who came up with this, but it really was led by a gentleman who was known for being one of the first five founding members of Department of Homeland and creating how we predict in the United States when somebody's moving from extremist to terrorist. We redid those algorithms with behavioral indicators of human trafficking and developed our own proprietary system for evaluating and analyzing the data coming in. And through that, we knew that we needed every community member to be seen and saying something. And so Simply Report is simply that. It's simply report your suspicions. You don't have to be completely confident. You just need to care. And so that's where Simply Report is the power of the people coming together to see human trafficking truly tackled in the United States.
Another question.
Mhm.
Okay, I've reported something,
Yep.
and you've taken it seriously. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
some crank out there. I may be a crank, but not a crank with this. And what would be the next course of action? Would it be, I guess it depends on the situation, but alerting law enforcement, alerting someone else? And I mean, how does it, I'm trying to figure out how this happens and I'm putting it together. Can you break
Yeah.
it down a little bit for me?
Okay, so you come onto the chatbot and you start saying, okay, I was at a hotel this weekend and I saw men coming and going from this hotel room regularly. They didn't seem to be staying the night. And then the next morning, I saw a girl that looks 12 years old come out of the room. She looked exhausted and tired and disheveled and was dressed inappropriately for her age, or whatever your situation is that you see.
And these are all obviously unrelated middle-aged men coming and going. Well,
Right.
that's a sign right there. Okay, keep going.
Right. So then you could come onto the app and be like, okay, this is what I saw. And then it's going to start based on the situation, asking you additional things. It might ask you for general demographic information of either the child or the men coming and going. It could ask if you saw any markings on the individuals, if you saw a license plate, if you were, had a car in view. And so it's working to draw out maybe some of those things that you didn't even necessarily remember that maybe you saw that can help build a more comprehensive picture for law enforcement. Once that tip is submitted, it is routed to our law enforcement partners and it goes through a analysis to determine the likelihood of trafficking and the actionability. If it is deemed immediately actionable or like a life risk or it's actively happening, then we deploy dispatch to that situation, or dispatch could
So this
deploy law enforcement
so this
directly.
could this could be real time, is what you're telling me. So
It
this
can.
isn't this doesn't go to some queue and somebody in the office gets to it next week.
No, 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 no. We can't. These are people's lives. So
Well,
it's a
well, I
human.
know that, Brittany. You don't have to
Oh, it's
convince
a
me.
human. We
Okay,
use
but
technology as a tool, but we have a human-centric response on the other
okay,
side.
see, but you know and I know when you
I know.
call some bank. I mean, I'm just trying. See, I'm giving you a chance to explain yourself
I
here, so you
appreciate
don't.
you.
So, but because it was one thing I can't stand these damn AI bots, and I never get to speak to somebody new, and I'm like, I'm in some sort of loop. And yes, but you're not that way, is what you're telling me.
No, 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 no. We want to make sure that that tip gets to a real person who can then triage the situation. So for some, they might get routed to our survivor support team if they need that resource and referral into safe housing. If it's tips that are coming in and we are able to help somebody exit, then we want to get that into the hands of the right person as quickly as
Mm-hmm.
possible. It is really critical.
So, let's go back to the example you used, the
Mhm.
hotel example, and I'm sure there's a lot of that. That just sounds intimate, very realistic. So then the police would show up at the
Mhm.
hotel, and so what would they tell the desk clerk or the manager? How would they? Do you know what they do? Say, hey, where's this room? And because they may not know the number of the room. Uh,
Right. And that can be a complicating factor. Sometimes they will. So, I mean, usually that would be a question that would be asked. Like if it's coming in from somebody who's in the room next door, okay, well, what room was this
okay,
happening in? So they
okay,
would have a room number. They would work alongside the GM at the hotel or whoever is the highest ranking employee on site, or if they have a safety,
yeah,
depending on what level of hotel we're talking about, that can differ. And then usually it starts with a door knock just to assess the safety, almost like a well check of a child if you were to request that from Child Protective Services for somebody's home. And then from there, we do a lot on victim-centered approach to law enforcement, helping train our law enforcement partners on how to go in and read a room to understand whether or not you have a victim of human trafficking. And so there's the
hmm
line of questioning that they use and different just techniques for helping discern what might be happening.
okay, all right. And then if they really have a serious sense of something's going on, they can take custody of the minor.
Correct. So then at that point, if it's they would remove the victim, separate them from the trafficker. Trafficker would be arrested. Victim would be connected to a victim advocate, and then our team would be liaising alongside the victim advocate to start the process of finding a safe house program for that child or that individual.
Okay. All right. Well, when you were saying they have a certain way of questioning people, a certain memory came to mind for me. You're gonna like this. Um,
I can't wait.
I lived up in the Buffalo area for a number of years, and if you know anything about the geography, you're right there on the Canadian border, and we'd go to and from Canada. You go over to on the other side of the falls for the day, and you come back, and that was before it was required to have a passport. I mean, you just show whatever. If you had U.S. plates on your car and you had a driver's license, you were good. You're good to go. Well, I had three daughters, as you know, and my middle daughter, she liked to be too cute for half. So we're coming back into the US, and the border agent is just asking my three girls. And he asks my middle one, "Are these your parents?" "No, they're not. I don't know who these people are." Oh my God. I mean, I wanted to wring her neck. I mean, this was just too much. Okay. So we were hauled out of the car and into there. And
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, it was sorted out fairly quickly
sure.
because these people are pretty smart and they could tell what this girl was up to. But it's like, how would you, I mean, talk about feeling like, what is this?
Right.
These aren't my parents. Oh,
Who are these people? I've never seen them before.
just wait till we get you home. Just wait till we
Oh,
get you home. She was also the one who was we called her Houdini because she'd be in the car seat in the back, and this usually happened, by the way, going to church on Sunday morning was when it usually happened, and we're riding along. We had to be on an interstate for a while, and I look up, and she's like what, two, three, maybe, and she's standing on the back seat, ta-da, like this. Okay, and then by the time I can get over and get back to her, she's sitting in her seat like, is there something wrong? I mean, you just want to wring her neck sometimes. She's a delightful lady. Not that she's all grown,
well,
but
of course. She sounds
of
like she
course,
can take care of herself.
yeah, very, very, a lot of personality, a lot of
Yeah,
personality.
yeah.
Yeah, but I just had to share that with you when
I
you
love
said
it.
that. I'm like, oh, well, I would like for us to do this again because next time I want to talk to you about some success stories. You can change the names,
Yeah.
obviously, but you've been in this 8 years now.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you have some success stories that you can share with us.
Of course.
Um, you do incredible work, Brittany,
Thank you.
and I don't say that lightly. And I think you know me well enough already. I don't say that lightly. All right, and you're doing serious work. Um, you're very disarming. For those of you just listening to this, Brittany's very disarming and cheerful, and she looks like she just came off the golf course or at the country club for lunch, but she's a very serious woman. And when you start talking with her, you get a chance of, oh yeah, there's real depth there. Yeah, and that's the reason I kept trying to bring you out during our interview here, because people, you hear this stuff on the news all day long. All right, it's fodder, and yet what I'm trying to do, and you've done a very good job today, is make it human and put a very human face on it, and the challenges that you faced to make this a reality. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh well, God called me to do this. Well, you can kind of flip those words off. Anyone can say that. But then when you tell me about the challenges that are involved in being successful and your own personal challenges that you've endured because of, say, for instance, those who don't want this to happen, all
Right.
right, who are your active, purposeful enemies, um, then it becomes very real, you
Mhm.
see, and that there's a price to pay for doing this kind of thing. So um, uh, I just want to say I've been very impressed.
Well,
I've been
thank
very
you. I
impressed.
appreciate your time.
We're going to do this again. And
Great.
as I said, think about success. I'm going to give you some time. Success stories is what I want to hear next time. All right.
Oh, I have so many success stories. You and I can talk for days.
All right. So, well, I'm going to get it set up again in the not too distant future because I do want to continue this conversation. Um, this has been delightful. So, is are you sort of the front person, or does your CEO get involved? Or I'm just curious why you're on there and she's not, or I don't know how this all came to be.
We both just kind of take different engagements depending on kind of schedules and what time allows, but it's always, we're both running in a million directions and love the opportunity to connect with people because we love to, sorry, we love to share about our work and the survivors that we get to serve because they truly are the heartbeat of this organization and they are the reason we get up every day and run harder, run faster towards our mission.
So, this is safehouseproject.org. And if someone wanted to reach out to you personally, Brittany Dunn, how would they do that in a safe way?
They can email me at Brittany, Brittany, at safehouseproject.org, and I would love to connect.
And you actually respond. It's not an AI bot, right?
Oh no, I love responding. That's the best way to meet people. That's the joy of this work is I have met more people from so many different industries and fields, and you just get to see how it really takes a collective impact approach to go after the world's hardest issues. So,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And I want to thank our viewers for their time. And I hope they've been as enlightened as I have been. I like learning new things. I like seeing what people are doing. We're going to have another someone, I guess, in another week, but we're going to get back with Brittany sooner rather than later because I do want to hear her success stories. And so thank you, Brittany. And thank you, listeners. Very soon.